Hi, everybody. This is Dave. I am under great pressure this week because of the Italy trip that's coming, but I wanted to take a couple of minutes to look at this review 5 that is due on Wednesday. As I said in the announcement that I just put up for week 29, it's fine by me if you want to submit all homework that is due for this week on Friday. I mean, I will already be on my way to Italy by Friday, but I should be able to check and see like who submitted what by Saturday at some point in Italy, I'm hoping. And maybe even if there is some downtime, be able to do some correcting over that week that I'll be there. It's actually 10 days, so it'll be a little while, and I'll have a lot of catching up to do when I get back, and I'll do whatever I can when I'm over there. But please go ahead and take up till Friday to submit this week's homework. So this week, as far as exercises, what is due is review 5, Roman numeral 5, and I think you have questions from exercise A here on the dative case. You have questions from future pluperfect and future perfect tenses, which is exercise 5B. You also have this sort of some of this chart. I'm not sure if it's all of this chart. In fact, let me see if I can look this up for a second. Let's just see what's in this week's roundup here. So let's see. We have D, A, B, and then 3, 5, 6, 8, 7, and 10 from exercise 5C. So 3, 5, 6, 8, 7, and 10. Let me get this out of the way now. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. So we have fere, which is irregular, esse, which is irregular, and then some regular verbs after that. And notice how you have to give all of the different tenses here. So this will be a good review, not only for this week, but for the final exam, which is, 4 weeks away or so. I've also submitted on the announcement for this week, which went up late, 2 final exam review documents, which you should see again. Let me see if I can find it here. Oops, no, not that. Okay, here. This is the week 29 review that, well, not week 29 review, but the week 29 announcement or introduction, which finally went up tonight, Sunday night. So I again apologize. But if you look down here, you'll see there are some attachments at the bottom of the week's announcement, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 you've seen. I think that's the review for the midterm exam that happened a while back, and part 2 is more like end of the year stuff. And this was forwarded to me by virtual high school people, so this is not documents that I've created myself, but that have been created with a view to the content of the course. So look them over and let me know if you have questions. But as for the exercises for this week, let's just take a quick look at. I'm gonna do this rather quickly this time. So, and it is review, so hopefully that will just one or two from each. Will suffice, I hope. So dative case, just remember, dative is the two or four case. You notice to Cornelia, to the slaves, to the slave woman, to his wife, for me. So this is just getting the right form of the word in parentheses here. So the first one says Sextus was telling Narabat a story about the wicked innkeeper de Caupone Scelesto to Cornelia. If you look at the first declension charts, you'll see that the dative singular of Cornelia is Cornelii, and then you'll have to just translate the sentence out. So I'm not going to do that now, just in the interest of time. But again, it was Sextus was telling, verb at the end, as it often is, a story, there's the direct object, about the wicked innkeeper to Cornelia. So telling it to Cornelia. So she's sort of like an indirect object there. We have direct object, the story, and who's he telling it to? To Cornelia. Number 2 says Eucleides. Dabat is from do dare, which means to give. So Eucleides was giving orders to the slaves and to the slave women. So to the slaves and to the slave women are both dative plurals here. So the forms there would be service, that should be a long I, and then ankylis for the slave women, or for to the slave women is the right way to say that. So again, I'm not including translations here, but those are part of the homework. For exercise 5B, again, read aloud, identify the tenses of the verbs, and translate. So find the verbs. There's one right there, advenero and erunt, and then also cogitabat. So we have three different tenses of verbs here, and this literally says if I, and literally will have arrived at the Senate House late. But again, future perfect is literally will have arrived, but we're going to say if I arrive at the Senate House late, the senators erunt, that is a future form of the verb sum esse, to be. So the senators will be angry. Cornelius was thinking. So Cornelius sort of thinking to himself here. We've got the in quotes here what he was thinking. So cogitabat. Let's not forget ba is imperfect tense. So we've got a future perfect, we've got a future verb, and we've got an imperfect verb. So identify tenses of verbs. So I think there you're going to say something like you're going to list the verbs out. So for the first one, you'd say advenero is future perfect. And again, I'm just in the interest of time, I'm not going to type this out, but future perfect, future, and imperfect, and then translate the sentence. Number two, sextus viderat. If you remember, pluperfect uses those eram, eras, erat endings on the perfect stem, which is the third principal part of the verb. Video, videre, vidi, visus. So vid plus erat gives you viderat, which is pluperfect. So that's the only verb in this sentence. So Sextus never had seen buildings so magnificent, so great, or so glorious, or something like that. So then you would write viderat equals pluperfect, and then you would write that sentence out in English. For, let's see, I think it was fere. So you're gonna probably have to do, like, for the irregular verbs, I would look. I can't remember exactly what chapter these are covered in, but it does give you guidelines here for what pages to look for in the textbook when you're reviewing these tenses here for all different tenses. So the most challenging one might be fere and esse because they're irregular and they sort of show up at different times in the book. But you can use the grammar index, which is in the back of the textbook. If you look at grammar index, you might look at irregular verbs or verbs comma irregular, see if you get something there, or just sort of thumb through the if you look here's one right here. Actually, I just found this earlier. So this is page 128 of chapter 17, and you see we have present tense of a few irregular verbs: vele, nole, fere, and ire. So we do have fere here, so you have the present tense and the imperfect tense forms of fere there. So that is chapter 17, page 128. So that's a little bit of a head start there. But also in the back of the book, there is this forms section. And I don't know if I have that. Let me just see if I have that here. Bear with me a sec. I don't know. Do I have it? No. Well, no, I'm not seeing that I have a PDF copy of it. But in the back of the textbook, you'll see forms, and there you'll see all kinds of verbs. Um, you'll see verbs conjugated in different tenses. So that should give you a head start. It has all of the different tenses, kind of the rules for formation of the different tenses, all kind of summarized in charts in the back of the book in this forms section. So put that in really big letters right there. Look in the back of the book for forms, and you should find something helpful, I think. So then D, all you have to do here is you see that there are some questions, questions 1 through 10, and there is this passage called Rome's fiercest enemy, which is Hannibal and the Carthaginians during the Punic Wars, the Second Punic War in particular. So this is a passage about Hannibal and about briefly about his childhood and conversation he had with his father, and then how he went on to be Rome's fiercest enemy, as it says. So there are 10 questions here, and they are to be answered with full sentences in Latin. So again, you're going to read the question: How old was Hannibal when his father prepared to sail to Spain? And let's see. I mean, right, the first sentence here we have: When Hannibal was a boy of 9 years, his father, named Hamilcar, was preparing to sail to Hispania, which is Spain, with many soldiers, multis cum militibus. So you're probably gonna, yeah, you do have a fair amount of new vocabulary down below the story. So don't try to read through this without having a look over the vocabulary that appears here, and then you'll just write the answers to these questions. So, how old was Hannibal when his father prepared to sail to Spain? You could write Hannibal erat puer novem annorum ubi pater eos parabat ad Hispaniam navigare. I've got those words a little bit out of order. Probably it should have parabat at the end there. So that would be a reasonable answer. And that's mostly right out of the text once again. So he was a boy of 9 years when his father was preparing to sail to Spain. And that answers that question perfectly, I think, when his father prepared to sail to Spain. All right, so I'm going to cut this video short now. I'm sorry for not going into much more detail, but again, this is a review chapter, so I think it's best to let you do your best to figure it out on your own with a little bit of guidance that I've just given you there. And I am sorry that it's rapid, but I am so strapped for time. So this is the best I can do right now. So I will be here until Thursday afternoon. After that, I'm pretty much gone. So I can take emails up until probably Thursday midday. At that point, I'm just going to be checking out entirely for Italy. So please get in touch with me, the earlier the better if you have urgent questions regarding this review 5, okay? So take care and good luck. I wish you all the best, and I'll be catching up a little bit more on week 28 this week and doing my best to give help to whoever needs it over the next couple of days, okay?